A millionaire finds his housekeeper's black son rummaging through the trash in his house. When he discovers the reason why, he is devastated. Robert Hamilton parked his Tesla in the garage of his Beverly Hills mansion when he heard something that made his heart race. It was desperate crying, but not the usual crying of a child throwing a tantrum. It was the sound of someone losing a battle against injustice. The California sun beat down on the backyard as Robert followed the noise to the laundry room. What he saw made his world stop for a few seconds. Tyler, the 8-year-old son of his cleaning lady, Patricia, was kneeling on the cold floor, his small hands dirty with trash, frantically rummaging through plastic bags as if looking for lost treasure. Tears streamed down his little face as he threw paper after paper aside with the desperation of someone who knew time was running out. His school clothes were stained, but Tyler didn't care. Something much more important was at stake. "Tyler, my boy, what are you doing there?" Robert ran toward the boy, feeling an inexplicable anguish take hold of his chest. The little boy looked up with red, swollen eyes, trying to wipe away his tears with the back of his dirty hand. "Mr. Hamilton," Tyler sobbed. "They threw it away. They said it was trash, but it's not trash. I need to find it before the truck takes it away forever." His trembling voice carried a pain that no child should ever know. Robert knelt down beside Tyler, trying to process why an 8-year-old would be so desperate. "What things, Tyler? What did they throw away?" The boy wiped his nose on the sleeve of his school uniform and whispered in a broken voice, "My science fair project, and pictures of my mom when she was little. Principal Coleman said it was worthless junk, but that's not true, Mr. Hamilton. Mom worked with me all last week on that project." Robert felt something cold run down his spine. Had Principal Coleman really thrown away Tyler's project? Why? Before he could ask, Patricia's firm voice echoed through the garden. "Tyler Washington, what are you doing out there? Son, you're all dirty." Patricia approached quickly, wearing her immaculate work uniform. Her eyes showed genuine concern, but also a weariness Robert had never noticed before. Tyler immediately ran into his mother's arms, hiding like a frightened child. "Mom, the principal threw away my solar energy project, the one we made with the plastic bottles and panels. She said in front of the whole class that it was slum work." The words came out between sobs, each one like a stab in Patricia's heart. Robert felt the blood boil in his veins. "She said what?" His voice came out louder than he intended. Patricia looked at him with an expression that mixed shame and resignation. "Mr. Hamilton, you don't need to worry about it. These things happen. Tyler will do another project." But her eyes told a different story. The story of a mother who worked 2 jobs to keep her son in a private school, only to see him humiliated by prejudice. Tyler clung tighter to his mother. "But Mom, she said that kids like me should accept our place in life and stop dreaming about things that aren't for our social class." The silence that followed was deafening. Robert looked at this bright child, who always greeted him politely, who helped his mother organize the cleaning supplies, who dreamed of becoming a scientist. The phrase echoed in his mind, "Kids like me." What did that mean? Kids like Tyler, smart kids, hardworking kids? Or was it something much more sinister, something related to the skin color of an 8-year-old boy? Robert Hamilton was 52 years old and had built a technology empire from scratch. He had always considered himself a fair man who treated everyone with respect. But at that moment, looking at Tyler and Patricia, he realized he had been blind to a world of injustice happening right under his nose. And for the first time in decades, the billionaire who controlled multinational companies felt completely powerless in the face of a situation no amount of money could solve. But Tyler had awakened, something in him that had been dormant for years, a burning desire to fight for justice. That night, Robert couldn't sleep. Tyler's words echoed in his mind. "Kids like me should accept our place in life." What place? The place of a brilliant child who dreamed of being a scientist? At 3 in the morning, he got up and went to his office to review the school records Patricia had left on the table weeks ago. Tyler Washington, 8 years old. Overall average, 9.7. Math, 10. Science, 10. Teacher's comments. Exceptionally dedicated and creative student. But there was a recent note from Principal Coleman. Needs guidance on realistic expectations for his academic future. Robert felt his blood boil again. Realistic expectations? For a child who got straight A's in science? The next morning, he decided to take action. Patricia, I need to go to Tyler's school today. There's something I can't ignore. Patricia froze, her eyes revealing instant panic. Mr. Hamilton, please. There's no need to bother. These things happen all the time. Tyler will get over it. All the time? Robert repeated slowly. Patricia, tell me the truth. What else has been happening at school? She hesitated, torn between gratitude for her job and the need to protect her son. Finally, she whispered, Tyler came home last week saying the principal called him in for a private conversation. She told him he was dreaming too big, that he should focus on professions more suited to our social reality. Robert felt his anger rise. What professions? Gardening, cleaning, manual labor? She said people like us should be grateful for the opportunities we have, and not be too ambitious. Patricia wiped away a tear she was trying to hide. I work 3 jobs to pay for that private school. Mr. Hamilton, I thought it would be different from public schools. 3 jobs? Robert had never asked about Patricia's personal life. What are the others? I clean offices at night and work in a laundry on weekends. Tyler studies alone because we can't afford a babysitter. Her voice carried the weight of a mother making impossible sacrifices. Robert thought of his own privileged childhood, where his only concern was which Ivy League university to choose. Patricia, show me Tyler's schoolwork. She brought out a carefully organized folder. Each project was a miniature scientific masterpiece. Volcanoes that actually erupted, working electrical circuits, experiments on renewable energy, all made from recycled materials, yet crafted with the precision of a professional engineer. My God, Robert murmured as he leafed through the work. This boy is a genius. He says he wants to create technologies to help poor families have cheap energy at home. He stays up late designing solar panels. Patricia smiled with a mixture of pride and sadness. But Principal Coleman says these ideas are fantasies, unsuitable for our social class. Robert slammed the folder shut. Social class? As if Tyler's DNA is any different from the children of millionaires who attend the same school. I'm going to talk to that principal today. Please, Mr. Hamilton, Patricia begged, don't mention that I told you these things. I need this job, and Tyler needs this school. If she finds out he spoke, the vulnerability in Patricia's voice made Robert realize how courageous she had been to confide in him. A single black mother dependent on her job, risking everything to defend her son. Patricia, you and Tyler won't lose anything. I guarantee it. There was something in Robert's voice she had never heard before. A determination that went beyond casual sympathy. 2 hours later, Robert was in Principal Coleman's luxurious office at Prestige Academy. The environment screamed exclusivity, expensive paintings on the walls, fine wood furniture, academic trophies from generations of privileged students. Mr. Hamilton, what a wonderful surprise, Coleman said, clearly flattered to receive one of the school's wealthiest patrons. I hope it's nothing serious involving one of our family's students. Actually, it's about Tyler Washington. Her expression changed instantly. Oh, an awkward pause. Your maid's son. Robert noticed how she avoided saying cleaning lady, but the disdain was obvious. Yes. I understand you threw out his science fair project. Coleman sighed dramatically. Mr. Hamilton, I understand your concern for staff, but that project was inadequate for our academic standards. Made from trash materials, no professional presentation. It would not represent our institution well at a science fair. Trash materials that worked perfectly to demonstrate solar energy, Robert replied coldly. Well, yes, but look. Coleman leaned forward conspiratorially. Between us, we need to be realistic about the limitations of these scholarship students. Tyler is a sweet kid, but encouraging him to compete with the children of doctors and engineers would be cruel. I'm just protecting him from inevitable disappointment. Robert felt something cold run down his spine. Limitations? You understand, she said with a condescending smile. Socio-cultural differences, different family expectations, limited access to advanced educational resources. It's our responsibility to guide them toward more appropriate paths. Technical professions, skilled manual labor. There is dignity in these jobs, Mr. Hamilton. Not everyone is born to be a CEO like you. Robert realized Coleman truly believed she was being kind. The prejudice was so ingrained that she saw her discrimination as maternal protection. What if I told you that Tyler has an IQ higher than 95% of the students at this school? Robert lied, though something told him it wasn't far from the truth. Coleman laughed nervously. Mr. Hamilton, with all due respect, these tests can be influenced by, well, cultural differences in interpretation of the questions. At that moment, Robert saw with crystal clarity what was really going on. It wasn't educational incompetence. It was systemic racism disguised as pedagogical concern. Principal Coleman, I'm going to be very direct. Tyler Washington is going to participate in the state science fair representing this school, and he's going to win. She blinked several times, clearly confused. Mr. Hamilton, I'm afraid that's not possible. The entries have already been submitted with other, more suitable projects. Robert smiled for the first time since he had arrived. But it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the smile of a man who had built an empire by destroying people who underestimated his determination. Principal Coleman, there are some things about me you may not know. And there are some things about this situation that you definitely don't understand yet. He stood up to leave, but paused at the door. By the way, I hope you've documented your conversations with Tyler about knowing his place in life. You may need to explain these educational philosophies to some people very soon. As he walked down the school hallway, Robert felt something he hadn't felt in years, the thrill of battle. He had spent decades building companies, but now he had a different project. He was going to use every connection, every resource, every favor owed to him to show the world exactly what Tyler Washington was capable of. And in the process, Coleman would learn that some children have powerful protectors she never imagined. What the principal didn't know was that Robert had recorded the entire conversation on his cell phone, and what she really couldn't imagine was that this quiet man walking through the hallways was planning something that would change not only Tyler's life, but the future of hundreds of children like him. Each new humiliation Coleman inflicted on Tyler only fueled a growing strength in Robert, a quiet determination that would turn his arrogance into his own professional ruin. 48 hours after confronting Coleman, Robert received a call that made his blood boil. It was Patricia crying on the phone. Mr. Hamilton, they expelled Tyler from school. They said he was caught stealing supplies from the science lab. Her voice trembled with despair and anger. But Tyler would never steal anything. Never. Robert closed his laptop in his office and focused completely on the conversation. Patricia, what exactly happened? Principal Coleman called Tyler in for a private conversation yesterday. She said she had reconsidered his situation at school and that it might be better for him to attend an institution more suited to his socioeconomic profile. Patricia sniffed, trying to control her tears. This morning they found electronic components in his backpack. Components that Tyler didn't put there. Exactly. But who is going to believe the word of a cleaning lady and a black child against the word of a respected principal? The bitterness in Patricia's voice cut Robert like a knife. Robert felt something much deeper than anger. It was pure, cold, calculating determination. Patricia, bring Tyler here this afternoon. The three of us need to talk. 2 hours later, Tyler was sitting in the Hamilton Mansion's library, still in his school uniform but with red eyes from crying. Mr. Hamilton, I swear I didn't take anything. Aunt Coleman said that kids like me sometimes do the wrong thing instinctively, and that it was better for me to confess so it wouldn't get worse. By instinct? Robert repeated, feeling the temperature. In the room dropped several degrees. She said that people of my social class sometimes develop inappropriate behaviors when exposed to environments far above our natural reality. Tyler wiped his nose on his sleeve. She said it was like putting a wild bird in a golden cage. Robert exchanged a meaningful glance with Patricia. Coleman wasn't just being prejudiced. She was being systematically cruel to an 8-year-old child. Tyler, tell me something. Do you know other children at school who have been through similar situations? The boy nodded slowly. Jasmine, the canteen owner's daughter. She's very good at math. But Aunt Coleman always says she should focus on cooking because she already has a family talent. And Marcus, the security guard's son. He draws really well, but he was banned from participating in the art contest because his style wasn't appropriate for our institution. Patricia covered her mouth with her hands. Mr. Hamilton, they're all scholarship kids, all black, or from working-class families. Robert stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the perfectly manicured garden of his property. At 52, he had built an empire based on identifying patterns and solving complex problems. And now he saw with crystal clarity that Coleman was not an incompetent educator. She was a systematic racist, operating under the guise of pedagogical concern. Patricia, Tyler, I have a proposal for you. Robert turned, and something in his eyes made Patricia realize this man had made an irreversible decision. We're going to prove Coleman wrong. About Tyler. About you, and about all the other families she's been hurting. How? Patricia asked hesitantly. First, Tyler is going back to school tomorrow. He hasn't been officially expelled yet, just suspended pending investigation. Second, I'm going to hire the best civil rights lawyers in California. Robert smiled for the first time in days, but it was a smile that combined kindness with lethal determination. And third, we're going to document everything. That night, Robert made 3 strategic phone calls. The first was to David Chun, an investigative journalist at the Los Angeles Times who specialized in exposing institutional discrimination. David, I need a favor. There's a story in Beverly Hills that might interest you. Systematic discrimination against scholarship children at an elite school. Solid evidence. David always got straight to the point. Recordings, documents, multiple witnesses, and a clear pattern of behavior over many years. Robert paused. David, this is going to be bigger than just a story about school prejudice. It will expose how racism operates under the guise of educational excellence. The second call was to Amanda Rodriguez, a civil rights lawyer specializing in racial discrimination cases. Amanda, I need to sue a school for systematic civil rights violations. Do you have a child there, Robert? No, but I have a conscience. The third call was the most unexpected. Robert hired a digital security company to investigate the academic records of all scholarship students at Prestige Academy over the past 5 years. I want to know how many talented children have been systematically discouraged, transferred, or expelled under dubious pretexts. And I want comparative statistics on the treatment of paying students versus scholarship students. The next morning, Robert arrived at school with Tyler holding his hand. Coleman was waiting at the reception desk with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Hamilton? What a surprise to see you here again. I hope you've come to resolve Tyler's situation in a civilized manner. I've come to re-enroll Tyler in regular classes, Robert replied calmly. The investigation into the alleged stolen components is still ongoing, correct? Coleman blinked several times. Well, yes, technically. Then Tyler is returning to class today, and I will be monitoring his education very closely from now on. Robert smiled, but his eyes carried a coldness that made Coleman instinctively recoil. During recess, Tyler approached Robert, who was waiting in the courtyard. Mr. Hamilton, Aunt Coleman called me in for another talk. She said, "You're being very kind, but too much kindness can be bad for kids like you." Kids like you? Robert's jaw tightened. She said that when important people take an interest in us, we can develop unrealistic expectations about our future. That you may be doing this out of pity, but pity doesn't last forever. Robert knelt down to Tyler's height, placing his hands firmly on the boy's shoulders. Tyler, listen carefully to what I'm going to say. You are one of the smartest kids I've ever met. Your skin color does not determine your ability. Your mother's profession does not limit your dreams. And any adult who says otherwise is lying. Tyler smiled for the first time in days. Do you really believe I can be a scientist? I believe you can be anything you want to be, Robert replied, standing up. And I'm going to prove it to the whole world. What Coleman didn't know was that every conversation between her and Tyler was being discreetly recorded by a small device Amanda Rodriguez had provided. What she couldn't have imagined was that Robert had hired investigators to analyze the academic records of all the poor black children who had passed through the school in recent years. And what the principal really couldn't comprehend was that her arrogance in underestimating both Tyler and Robert was building. The strongest case of institutional discrimination California courts had seen in a decade, while Coleman continued her so-called pedagogical conversations with Tyler. Thinking she was molding a child into accepting his reality, Robert worked quietly behind the scenes. He gathered not only lawyers and journalists, but also a detailed dossier proving that Prestige Academy had systematically destroyed the dreams of dozens of talented children simply because they were poor or black. Arrogance had blinded Coleman to a fundamental truth. When you underestimate powerful people who have decided to protect those they love, you are not just making a tactical mistake, you are signing your professional death warrant. For now, Coleman believed she controlled the narrative, molding yet another problem child into accepting his place. But in the coming days, she would discover she had chosen the wrong opponent in the wrong battle, and that her career was about to become a case study in how prejudice destroys those who practice it. The following Thursday, Robert received a call from David Chun. "Robert, you won't believe what we've discovered. Coleman isn't just prejudiced. She's been running a systematic scheme for 5 years. "What do you mean?" "She accepts private donations from wealthy families in exchange for ensuring their children don't have to compete academically with talented scholarship recipients, literally selling discrimination. And we have bank documents proving it all." Robert smiled coldly. "Perfect. It's time for the grand finale." On Friday morning, Prestige Academy was in an uproar. News vans surrounded the entrance, and Coleman ran desperately down the main hallway, trying to understand what was happening. "Principal Coleman!" shouted a reporter. "Is it true you were caught systematically discriminating against scholarship students?" Coleman forced a nervous smile. "I don't know what you're talking about. This is a reputable institution." At that very moment, Robert appeared at the main entrance, accompanied by Amanda Rodriguez, David Chun, and Tyler holding his hand. But this was no longer the frightened Tyler of the past few days. This was a child who knew justice was finally being served. "Principal Coleman," Robert said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I would like to officially introduce Tyler Washington, the young scientist who will represent this school at the state fair." Coleman blinked several times. Clearly confused, "Mr. Hamilton, we discussed this." "It's not possible." Amanda Rodriguez stepped forward with a folder. "Actually, according to federal civil rights law, not only is it possible, it's mandatory. And we have evidence that this institution has systematically violated those rights." Coleman laughed nervously. "What evidence?" David Chun held up a tablet, and Coleman's voice echoed across the courtyard. "Kids like Tyler should accept their place in life and stop dreaming about things that aren't for their social class." There was complete silence. Parents, teachers, and staff froze as more recordings played, one after another. People of their social class sometimes develop inappropriate behaviors when exposed to environments far above their natural reality. Between us, we need to be realistic about the limitations of these scholarship students. Coleman went pale. That was taken out of context. "I was just protecting Tyler." "Like you protected Jasmine," Robert interrupted, "when you told her she should focus on cooking, or Marcus when you banned him from the art contest." Amanda opened the folder. "We have documentation of 17 cases in the last 5 years, 17 talented children systematically discouraged, transferred, or expelled. All of them black or from working-class families." A murmur of horror rippled through the crowd of parents. Several mothers began calling other families, spreading the revelation. "And there's more," David Chun continued. "We uncovered bank transfers from specific families to Principal Coleman's personal account. Private donations in exchange for shielding their children from academic competition." Coleman tried to walk away, but microphones and cameras closed in from every direction. "You don't understand these children," she stammered. "They don't have the same cultural background." "Like Tyler," Robert cut in calmly, "who gets straight A's in math and science. Or like the research I funded, which shows scholarship students here average higher grades than paying students." Patricia stepped forward beside Tyler, still in her work uniform, but carrying herself with a dignity that made several parents lower their eyes in shame. "Principal Coleman," Patricia said firmly, "for 2 years you told me that Tyler needed to accept his limitations. You told me I was being too ambitious. You said fathers like him should teach their children realism. Tyler let go of Robert's hand and walked toward Coleman. Aunt Coleman, why did you say I was a thief? Why did you say kids like me are no good? The innocent question from an 8-year-old echoed through the silent courtyard. Coleman couldn't find words. Amanda Rodriguez held up a court order. Principal Coleman, you are officially notified. The Department of Education is taking over the investigation of this institution, and there is a search and seizure warrant for your personal financial records. This is absurd, Coleman shouted, finally losing her composure. I've dedicated my life to education. These people are distorting normal pedagogical conversations. Pedagogical conversations? Robert repeated, playing another recording on David's tablet. Coleman's voice echoed clearly. When important people take an interest in their lives, they can develop unrealistic expectations. Too much kindness can be harmful to children like Tyler. Several mothers in the crowd began to cry. One of them approached Patricia. My God, Patricia, I didn't know. Forgive our blindness. Coleman attempted one last desperate defense. You can't destroy my career because of misunderstandings. I've been respected in the education system for 20 years. Tyler looked straight at her. Aunt Coleman, you destroyed the dreams of many children, but you didn't destroy mine. Robert put his hand on Tyler's shoulder. Starting today, Tyler Washington is not just a student at this school. He is the first beneficiary of the Hamilton Educational Foundation, which will offer full scholarships to talented children regardless of their socioeconomic background. The crowd erupted in applause. Coleman, trembling with rage and despair, looked unrecognizable. You've ruined everything. Everything I've built. No, Robert said calmly. You ruined everything yourself the moment you decided that skin color and social background determine human potential. As Coleman was escorted away by lawyers and officials from the Department of Education, Tyler held Robert's hand. Mr. Hamilton, thank you for believing in me when no one else did. Robert smiled, though his eyes still shone with determination. Because even though justice had been served with Coleman, he knew hundreds of other children like Tyler were still facing the same injustices in schools across the country. And at that moment, watching Tyler smile for the first time in weeks, Robert realized his true mission was only just beginning. Coleman's downfall was only the first step in an educational revolution that would change the fate of thousands of talented children. 6 months later, Tyler stood on stage at the Los Angeles Convention Center, holding the first-place trophy from the state science fair. His project on low-cost domestic solar energy had impressed the judges so much that 3 universities had already offered him full scholarships for when he finished high school. I want to dedicate this award to my mother, who worked 3 jobs to give me an education, and to Mr. Hamilton, who taught me that dreams have no color, Tyler said into the microphone, his voice firm and clear. In the audience, Patricia wept with pride, now the executive director of the Hamilton Educational Foundation. Beside her, Robert smiled, watching not only Tyler, but 15 other scholarship children who had been taken out of Prestige Academy and transferred to schools that recognized true talent. Coleman was not present, of course. After losing her teaching license and facing charges of racial discrimination, she now worked as a clerk in a bookstore, her 20-year career destroyed by her own arrogance. The newspapers still called her the principal who sold prejudice. After the ceremony, Tyler approached Robert. Mr. Hamilton, Ms. Coleman taught me something important without meaning to. What was that, champ? That when someone tries to put me down, it's because they're afraid of my brilliance. Robert hugged the boy, realizing this 8-year-old had found a wisdom that many adults spend decades seeking. At that moment, watching Tyler lift the trophy high, Robert understood that the best revenge had not been destroying Coleman. It was proving she had been completely wrong about human potential. Tyler was not just a talented boy. He was living proof that greatness has no address, no color, and no last name. And now, hundreds of other children would have the same opportunity to shine. If this story of overcoming adversity touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove justice always finds a way to overcome prejudice, even when we least expect it.